Spec Ops: The Line, developed by Yager Development in 2012, tells the story of Captain Martin Walker, an elite American operative sent to Dubai on a recon mission where a horrible catastrophe took place. The game plays like a modern shooter, but is designed to make players reflect on the nature of war and killing.
Spec Ops: The Line plays like a typical third-person shooter game, as the player progresses through the levels, navigating obstacles and firefights along the way. The gameplay feels fluid and dynamic, and the game's battlefield can prove quite a challenge when things get chaotic. At a surface level, the game plays like an American action movie, with strong tones of American heroism. The game shows a certain self-awareness, however, the dark undertones question the point of war and killing, criticizing the very premise the gameplay is built on. The game threads on a balance between this surface-level action movie style and the darker criticizing undertones, making for an interesting dualism. Unfortunately, in the second half of the game, its balance feels somewhat off, as the campy action movie elements are brought more to the forefront through bombastic helicopter chase scenes and explosions. From a visual perspective, the game looks very good for its time, contrasting the drab desert colors against the vibrant city of Dubai. Sound effects feel heavy and impactful, fitting for an urban battlefield. The game was tested at maximum settings and ran at a stable frame rate with no major issues.
The learning content of Spec Ops: The Line can be broken up into three different forms. The most significant are the moral decisions that are put before the players through the course of the game. These are smoothly integrated into the gameplay and highly interactive. Do not occur during cutscenes or in a separate menu. To illustrate this through an example, there's a section in the game where the player must fight their way through a massive group of enemies. Conveniently placed nearby is a mortar capable of firing white phosphorus bombs, which would make quick work of the enemy, albeit in an inhumanly painful way. If the player opts to use the white phosphorus bombs, they must navigate to the mortar while avoiding enemy gunfire, physically interact with and aim the mortar. After doing so, it is revealed that the enemy soldiers were actually defending a civilian camp who were all killed by the bombs fired by the player. The design of the moral decisions put before the player adds an extra layer of meaning. They affect not only the game's plot, but also the gameplay itself, as using the bombs make the player basically skip a difficult section of the game. The other two types of learning content are world-building elements, collectibles in the form of audio tapes and non-player character chatter discussing the situation in Dubai and the nature of war.
Unfortunately, due to the game's narrow view through the eyes of an American soldier, the game rates rather poorly in terms of ethics, inclusion, equity, and diversity. The game characters are primarily male and American. Civilians of Dubai are present, but are either presented as terrified or violent towards the main character. The aim of the developers was to cause the player to question their thoughts about treating war in the video game as entertainment, by contrasting the action-packed gameplay against the darker undertones of the plot. While this is an interesting concept with lots of potential, the game ultimately falls victim to its own narrow lens of American heroism.
In terms of accessibility and scale-up potential, the game scores a bit better than the previous category, but still rather poorly. The genre of a shooter game has a relatively high skill ceiling, and good reflexes and reaction time are required from the player depending on the in-game difficulty level chosen. Furthermore, no measures were taken to make the game more accessible for less abled persons, and the game's audio is only available in English. The game is, however, reasonably priced at €20 and small in size, with no internet connection required to run the game. On a surface level, the game's concept shows a lot of potential. A self-aware shooter game that offers the player a fun shooting experience while at the same time making the player question the nature of war and killing. This dualistic concept could easily be translated to other conflicts and situations. The execution, however, could have been better, as the game shows a rather biased view through the American heroism, and the moral choices can make the player feel as if they are being lectured.
In summary, Spec Ops: The Line brings an interesting dualism to the table, in which its campy action movie-like gameplay is contrasted against the darker undertones through which it criticizes war and killing. Moral decisions put before the player feel very weighty and impactful, and are very smoothly integrated into the playing experience without any interruptions. The game falls short due to its narrow perspective, however. A good addition to the game would have been a multivariate perspective, showing multiple sides of the conflict. With these things in mind, we rate Spec Ops: The Line 18 out of 25 stars. See you on the next one.